Well, you know, I was thinking about this concept the other day because I was with a client and I had a visual where uh, the doors were open and they were holding this big key.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that they were the key, so the key disappeared and the door opened even more.
Mm.
And I realized that we are the key that opens these levels of consciousness to live consciously.
Yes.
That inside of us is a key, and those keys that, I'm trying to say this without making them multiple keys.
Okay.
It's not like keys on a piano, although there is a flavor of that.
Mm.
It's just that I think that once you start using your sensory system and you start looking at how to use the language that you're feeling and seeing and taking that in, all of a sudden there's these platforms, and in those platforms there's doors.
Mm-hmm.
Those doors open up because you've arrived at the platform and you're the key. The door opens up,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes total sense. And I think there's an excitement and a grounded kind of excitement,
Mm-hmm.
but also a passion to want to be the adventurer, to know that you can safely explore because you're allowing your heart and your soul to be the guide in the demonstration,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be you're doing it artistically, you're doing it for your healing aspect, uh, anything where you're trying to expand your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 360 basically.
Yes.
Because it all pulls into the center, like a matrix, doesn't it?
I think it does.
Yeah, and it affects everyone outside of us even. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, have you ever had somebody say to you, "You're too happy"?
Yes, I have.
You're really irritating me.
I
You're too
have.
happy. And you know what? That just cracks me up. It's like, thank you for the sign.
Yeah, that's right. I'm on the right track. Mm-hmm.
You got a problem with my happiness? I'm sorry. But too bad. I'm not going to change that.
No.
We
No.
need more happy people in the world. If we're going to make the difference in the world, we have to approach
Mm-hmm.
it from being happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think is happening in our culture today that's creating, let's just say, a lot of anger issues and a lot of anxiety? What do you think's happening in culture, in your opinion, as a psychologist, of what you've been seeing?
Well, I think we've already touched on pieces of that, and that is the fragmenting of our culture. And it's not necessarily about nuclear families or anything like that, but what I'm seeing is people that really are not getting the validation they need from our society, or sometimes from their parents, who are very busy, that they are a valuable, worthwhile human being. And it really ticks us off when we hear other than that, because there's that deepest, highest good and that connection to source, especially when we're kids, that knows we have value, that knows we can contribute. And so when we're dismissed or ignored, that really can start to fester. And then we learn to dismiss and ignore ourselves. So when we're looking at technology and we're looking at the garbage of information, the information garbage that we're giving ourselves, it's really kind of like pouring gasoline on a fire. For me personally, I am not really very tolerant to gore, and I am always surprised how much gore there
Unbelievable
is.
violence.
Yes.
I've got to, well, my audience has heard me talk about this before. It's like I'm up on a horse on it.
Okay.
But it's true. We are being introduced into more violence, more sexuality. It's really creating a descent, a downward spiral, as for what our ancestors was trying to bring up.
Yes.
And everybody's saying it's okay. It's not okay. What these children are witnessing at such young age, the fathers that are not with their wives but are in a den watching pornography. I have so many people women that I have seen over the years who don't know what to do about their husband's addiction to pornography.
Mm-hmm. And we're pumping it into our homes now. You don't even have to go to a place.
Well, they don't even know the damage it's doing.
Correct.
And that's the men or the women. They don't know that it's affecting their field and making them sicker.
Yes.
Because it's like a drug.
And
if it hooks, it's like a drug.
It is, and I think the damaging part of that isn't sexuality, and we get very confused about that because that's something that's innate to us as human beings and as spiritual beings, I think sometimes. I'm not sure about that one, but really it's about the objectification of people. Of people, because the men that are in those vignettes are being objectified as well.
They are.
And so that is just another example of lack of empathy.
What about the violence, though, that's happening, the absolute crudeness of the violence and showing the blood and gore on a micro? I mean, it's really there. There's nothing to your imagination. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. There's nothing left to the imagination. Where before you could sit and you could actually enjoy a movie and they developed the characters enough to where you could, in your own imagination, kind of see it through. You didn't need to have people running around, jumping up and down on a bed and talking in crude ways as they're supposedly, in quotes, making love. I have a problem with what is going on in a sense of a mind control in this country in that way. Because I've never been more upset than recently when you go to try to find a movie that might be something that could be fun. I mean, they're out there. They're far and few between. But what are we manufacturing in our society? And where does that lead? Well, it shuts down the emotional body, doesn't it?
And the spiritual body.
The spiritual body.
You know, Badeish, I was in the audience when you had Sarah Weissman here.
Oh, I love Sarah.
I do too. I enjoyed her book very much. And she said something that I really appreciated on your show, and that was that there is so much of the profane in what is being delivered to adults and children now. I have a 4-year-old son, and I'm very censoring on what he watches because it's pretty amazing how quickly subtle innuendo can get in.
Oh, yes.
And I think with all of that profanity that we have, we're really losing a sense of the sacred. So when you are watching CSI and going all the way into the intestine to see what lodged where, there's no honor of the human being.
Exactly. Well, maybe that's why we're called to do what we do and why I was called to do the cable show. I mean, really, I did this kicking and screaming because I didn't want to be in front of a camera. The voice thing was always much easier for me. But then, you know, the camera. And I've surrendered totally. It's like kicking off the shoes and, hey, gonna do this. And that's been my approach anyway. People say, you can jump. Well, yeah, I think, you know, there's the groundedness. And then there's the reasoning, okay, it's the possibilities, and the right one is right here to jump. And so we're all getting into an area where people don't realize this, but they're in an airplane and they got parachutes. And they're going to be jumping, especially in the next 6 to 9 months. This is my idea of what's going to be going on in the world. And you have to be willing to jump back into yourself.
It's required.
And know that you're going to land beautifully, as if you've been trained to parachute out of a plane. And there's going to be others who have wrapped their parachute badly. And I see that too. I see that a lot too. But would I get on a plane and jump? If I was holding someone else's hand.
Not alone.
A tandem kind of thing. We're going together, or we're not going at all.
So your community goes to the very core of you. Your connection.
The connection. Okay. We've got one last question here. In your opinion, what are some of the steps that people can take to become more aware and live a more conscious life? I know that's a big question, but what are some of the things off the top of your head that you feel? We'll play this one together.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
You can go first. And
All right.
what's one thing right now that you think they can do?
Slow down.
Hello.
Slow down.
What were we talking about?
Slow down.
I have a lot of fire and Aries in me, and
Yes.
slowing down is like, hoot, hoot. You know, sometimes has to say, all right, slow down. I have a husband that does that for me, thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God for him, yes.
I think the indicator that we need to slow down is when you are twisted up and you're going to have a temper tantrum because the light went on at the check stand at the supermarket. You don't have time for that. It's time to take a breath. Nobody is actually dying because it's going to be an extra 2 minutes.
Isn't that the truth?
It
Because
is.
that is going on rampant.
People are overwhelmed.
Well, a lack of patience and
Yes.
a lack of compassion will get you into a lot of trouble, especially if you're behind the wheel of a car.
That lack of compassion is really frequently with themselves.
Yeah. I think that people need to become more open to investigate instead of accepting things
Yes.
completely because it's been given to them. I think they need to do their own investigation and explore and go out on this adventure and find out for themselves, you know, because that's what gives you choice.
Yes.
And what we're talking about is all about the choice to slow down and listen to the body talking. And while the body's talking, so is spirit.
Yes. And we are enculturated to listen to the professional. And the real professional is us. So being able to slow down and listen, I think, is a real key.
I think we need to also look at what we're putting into the body.
Consumption.
The consumption on a daily basis. We have really got to educate ourselves and our children as to what is going on with food, because that is why so many problems are escalating in our society. Well, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
I so enjoy you, and I'm so proud of you for what it is you do.
Thank you.
And I want to thank our crew for their wonderful support and our sponsors, El Pollo Loco in Beaverton on Southwest Cedar Hills Boulevard and on Gleason Street in Wood Village. For our beautiful flowers, West Side Florist in Aloha and Market Center on Southwest TV Highway in Aloha. Choosing the power of possibilities. Something possible becomes a reality because you said yes. See you next time. Thank you for watching Create Your Own Reality, a program about hope, inspiration, and encouragement. If you would like to be a member of our audience for future shows, please email us at createyourownreality@hotmail.com. We are grateful to these local businesses for their support in making this program possible.